Hi, everybody. I'm Dana Brooks of Facing Brooks, and this is another episode of the EmPower Hour brought to you by the EmPower Plant. I'm very excited today because we're talking about one of my things I'm so passionate about, and that is women-owned businesses. And we have a guest on today, and I'm so excited that she's decided to join us because she is a woman-owned business in a real competitive area where the businesses fail more than they succeed. And she did this and sprinkled a little COVID on top of it. So I want to hear about resilience from her. I think everybody does. So I want to welcome you, Justine. I call you Justine May, but what is your name?
Justine Spells.
Spells. Okay, I can remember that. Spells. She spells well. Okay, little mnemonic devices, I guess, help. I want to introduce our panel real quick before we dive into this exciting topic. We have got Kia Thomas with us today, our communications director. Hey, I think your mic might be off. Your microphone out. There you are. Hey there, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm hot though, but hey, welcome to July in Florida.
Yes.
Let's see who else I got on. I've got Kimmy Hogan, my law partner Kimmy Hogan on today. Welcome back. Welcome back. I know you're going to have some questions because you're a woman business owner yourself.
That's true. And I'm a beer drinker and food eater.
Oh, hey.
An art lover. So I like
that's a lot of intersecting commonalities. So this is going to be a good group. I got another woman business owner. My law partner, Carrie Roan, is on. And Carrie is doing what most women do, and that is acting like a whirling dervish because she is working, she's practicing law, she's talking to clients, she's on this thing, and she's, going home to pack to go on a major trip. And, moms have to pack everybody's stuff too, not just their own. So I'm so impressed that she made the time.
Thanks.
Welcome.
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about this. I really am. I didn't want to miss it. So I'm sorry that I'm multitasking.
Oh, no. Hey, we assume you're multitasking. Okay, I'm going to take.
And you know what? I'm not supposed to say I'm sorry anymore. So thank you for being patient with me while I'm multitasking.
I love it.
That's the answer.
Let's all practice gratitude instead of apologies.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate it. Rose is not able to be with us today, so the drink of the week falls on me. Actually, I delegated it, and it fell on our producer, Whitney, and so we're having wine.
Kim Crawford special.
We're in honor of Kim Crawford. I think we've honored her as an empowered woman a couple of times now.
Oh, sure. No, Kim is a man. Kim Crawford.
Perfect. Of course, Kim Crawford's a man. That just makes total sense. Yeah. No, we're gonna honor the vintners of New Zealand today, and I'm sure they're empowered people. They seem pretty hip. But let's get back to our topic. We've got Justine Spells, and you are the owner of the Railroad Craft House. Am I saying that right? Railroad Square Craft House.
Railroad Square Craft House. I'm one of the owners, yes.
Tell us how you came to be in that position, what turned you on to it, and just give us an overview of how you spend your time and how you made your dream a reality.
Well, I had just moved back to Tallahassee in 2018, and I met one of the owners of the property, Adam Kay, and we got to talking. I started helping with marketing because I have a separate business that's a marketing business, and I started helping with marketing for Railroad Square Art District. And with that, he had already started working on this concept. It was called the Yard at Railroad at first. And he asked me if I was interested in coming on board as a partner. And I have had about 16 years of restaurant and service industry experience. And so I said, absolutely, it's been a dream of mine. And the funny thing is, with my ex-husband, we looked at this specific location to put a brewery in before Proof put in and signed a lease for it. About 6 months later, Proof ended up snagging the property, and the rest is history on that part for them. But it came back around, and he kind of knew when he heard that story that he had me hook, line, and sinker.
I love that. When did you start this venture as an owner?
We started the process. Adam was already in process with it. I came on board in December of 2018. We opened as the Yard as a small pop-up in March of 2019, and we were only open for about 3 months. And we closed for construction during the summer, and that's when we tore down the walls, expanded the art garden area, and busted out a couple of the offices that are inside the tap room to give more room inside.
Gotcha. Tell our viewers and listeners kind of the environment you're in, because and I mean that seriously, because I've lived here for 30 years and I have only relatively recently gotten familiar with everything that's going on down at Railroad Square. And I was there, you and I posted about it on Facebook. I was there whenever you guys had a big brouhaha there with, they caught a criminal nearby.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that thing. But I was there that day and I'm walking around. I'm like, man, there's some cool stuff out here. And then there's the First Fridays going on. Just tell us a little bit about Railroad Square, the environment, why you were excited to be a part of that.
Well, Railroad Square is actually kind of like a little slice of home for me. I'm from Portland, Oregon originally, so it's a very arts and eclectic area. And here there's probably over 70 local businesses. It's the largest area of local businesses in town. And actually, majority of them are either women or minority owned, which is another huge part of the reason why I love being a part of this community. And it just felt right being down here. And Adam and his sister Lily are third generations owners of the property. And over the past couple of years, they've really started reinvesting in the property and really taken it to the next level. And it's been amazing in the 3 years I've been a part of this, that to see how much it's grown and changed. There's so much more art on the walls. It's so much more inviting and welcoming down here. So it's wonderful to see all the changes that have come in just a short time that I've lived in Tallahassee.
Oh, I totally dig the area. I like the sock store. All those, there's a whole store that has nothing but smart ass sayings on socks. And I think that's the best thing ever. Kimmy, have you been down there? Do you spend a lot of time in that area?
I've been down there, and I actually know I grew up with Adam K here in Tallahassee. We went to school together for a while. So I've always loved Railroad Square, but you're right, Justine, it has developed and changed so much recently. It is awesome. I've been, I heard that you can go on First Fridays and get a gong bath. Has anybody heard of this?
No, I actually haven't. What?
It's at one of the stores that's
listening.
kind of at the back. So it's where you lay down and somebody hits a gong, you know, to make
yes.
and you let the vibrations bathe over you. Anyway,
I'm here for
has
that.
been on my to-do list.
I'm here for that, and I also want to float.
Yes.
Have you heard about these float places?
Yes.
I'm here for both of those things. I want a gong float is what I probably
Sensory deprivation and a gong.
I'm here for it. And then let's go in one of those freezing baths.
Yes.
That's hot right now.
Wild. But yes, I love it. And I've been to your restaurant. It's awesome. I love having the fake grass outside.
I love that.
Because then you feel like you're outside, but you don't have the itchy bug problem.
Yes.
I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, one question I wanted to ask you, Justine, is kind of back to the COVID era and getting this restaurant up and going. What was that like? What was the strategies that y'all used to keep going during the time when restaurants were really shut down or very limited capacity?
Great question.
Yes, that is a wonderful question. So I have to go backtrack just a little bit more. Remember, I said that we closed down during the summer to remodel and everything. We rebranded in that process, and we came out as Railroad Square Craft House in August of 2019. And so we were still technically just a bar at that point, beer and wine only. And so we started realizing where this is a destination, we need food. And so in October, we started the process of building a kitchen and getting food underway. And while it wasn't in the most fiscal responsible thing to do at the exact moment, it actually is what saved our business in the long run. And so we moved forward with doing food, and it opened at the end of October, beginning of November. We started rolling out our own food, and then we are just getting underway and really taking off with people knowing that we had food and we have these great craft beers and everything, and shut down. And at that point, I think what helped us after that is we weren't some 30-year-old established or 10 or even 5-year-old established brand. So we're like, all right, let's lean into this curve and see where it takes us. And so every time we didn't really have this solid, we have to do it this way kind of mentality. And we were really open to what can we do to survive, and our kind of survival instincts just kicked in. And I come from the marketing background, and when we reopened, I turned around and asked, put out community feelers, surveys and whatnot, to see the level of comfort that everyone else was in. And that really helped us navigate through some of those really tumultuous times.
Yeah.
Were you surveying from other business owners to see what they were doing, or were you going to the customers to see whether they'd be willing to come in and what kind of product they were looking for? Okay.
Yeah, that's where Tallahassee Foodies became a really good leaning point for us, because we were allowed to promote in there. And who better to promote yourself to than like 25-30,000 people of your target demographic. Yeah. And they gave all restaurants the ability to go in there once a day and post once a day about your business. And a couple of times I took the initiative to utilize putting out a survey in there. And that's what helped me really gauge, because those are the people we want to come in here. Those are the people who were supporting us before the shutdown and supported us through the shutdown. So they're the best people to go and ask, how are you feeling about this right now?
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I was going to ask you about that. If you had any mentors or anybody that you looked to for guidance as you started this journey, this process.
There was definitely a lot of mentors through the whole process. We all came from different backgrounds, and so we all brought our own specialty into it. But then we also have talked to a lot of people. I could probably list off like 20 or 30 people in this town. Our community is so wonderful. We don't feel that we're really competition, that we're really adding benefits to this community. And we almost like push each other a little bit harder to see what we can come up with next, kind of thing. But it's not a direct competition in any way.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to get to you, Carrie Roan. Plaintiffs lawyers like us, we're competitors, and it's a very competitive area, but we're friendly competitors because our interests are so aligned. And there's like us versus the entire world. All those big insurance companies, all those big corporations and stuff. So, I get what you mean. There's almost safety in numbers, but we kind of also did that. Carrie and Kimmy can speak to it, but whenever COVID came around, a lot of people went to austerity measures and sort of retreated and shrank down, and we kind of hit the gas and it worked. Thank God we did it, because we're feeling the effects of it now. But Carrie, what are you thinking as you listen to Justine today?
Well, I have a good story about Railroad Square. So my husband and I went to the rock gym and went rock climbing on our first date on February 29th of 1996 on leap year. And that was really my first time in Railroad Square. And it was really, really like very warehousey.
That long.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that we moved back to Tallahassee in 2001 was because of the rock gym and because of that development in that area. And they started having First Fridays, I think a few years thereafter. And, my boys now are 14 and 16, and my 16-year-old used to go to the rock gym and go climbing. I think they moved recently, if I'm not mistaken, because they had some storm damage from one of the storms to their roofs. But it's just been a really like special place that I hold kind of near and dear to my heart. So it's kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool. And I love it. The sock store is one of my favorite stores. That's where I go shopping for some of the women in my family every year to get them some really snarky, sarcastic socks, which I love.
Yep.
But I'm kind of interested to know like what Justine's goals are for the future. Now that they've kind of, they've got the craft house serving food and it's doing well and everything is kind of advancing. And I love the camaraderie of the area. I think that's a really good point, Dana. But I'm interested to know what she wants to do and what they want to do for growth, because I think they've got such a good business model. And obviously she's going to face some challenges for growth because she is working in a male-dominated industry. I think restaurant, bar, and craft beer is definitely male-dominated. So that's kind of the question that I had for you to begin with.
Yeah.
So for growth, we have definitely already been looking at a secondary concept. We almost pulled the trigger on one earlier, but then we had to back down with some changes that we had in the organization. So we are getting our foundation set really firm, because there's been a lot of even after COVID started feeling like it settled out, there's been skyrocketing prices on everything. We currently aren't even serving wings because they're double the price they were a year ago.
Wow.
So we are, trying to figure out ways to manage the cost of goods. And once we get to a more even place, and I have a really stronger management team underneath me, because my long-term assistant manager is moving to Detroit, unfortunately. So he just left me. So it wasn't the right time to start something in summer. And so we're shooting towards the end of the year to potentially have a secondary concept, at least in formation.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Look, always be looking for the black swans, like COVID. No one saw that coming. But
Yes.
you've got to be agile, and everybody's sick of those words, agile and pivot, but you got to, if you're just stuck like a deer in headlights, that's not an action plan. I mean, I don't know what you're gonna do with that. Kia, have you been down there? Are you familiar with that area?
I have. I was introduced to that area when I came up here in 2001 to attend Florida A&M. And like Carrie said, we started doing the whole rock climbing thing and going to the different, artsy things that were going on down there. But now it's even becoming more, I want to say, family friendly too, because they have like those little parks that are over there. I've taken my son to it, and he's not too good with the ground because it's not like the real ground. It's that jumping type ground. So yes, I'm very familiar with that area down there. One thing I wanted to, it's kind of a loaded question, Justine, but it's having to do with what big opportunities have existed for you and your company that were born out of these circumstances that could possibly also help you to mitigate the risk.
Mitigate the what?
The risk.
The risk, I guess you mean the risk of this, not doing well and having to lay off people, having to close your place down,
So to mitigate the risks for the business, we just really try to keep, I would try to outside looking in, just a very free-flowing spirit kind of place, but in the background it's all about the standard operating procedures and following through, doing inventories, being on count, holding people accountable, and that's what's kept our doors open. I can walk through it, people will be like, oh, Justine, we're out of this, and I'm like, no, we're not. And I'll walk back to the back and be like, here's a whole case of it right here for us.
You must have men working back there. I'm going to say a very sexist thing. But in my experience, when a man says he can't find something, that means he's checked his hands and it's not there.
Yeah,
I'm such a man.
That's the
Probably
extent.
about 75% of the time I'd say that's accurate here. There's a couple times where it's not.
Where did you look? Well, I haven't really started. I thought you'd shortcut that process for me.
Exactly.
This little bubble outside their head. I don't know why they just said it. But I mean, basically means I don't have it. So please make it appear. No, I get you. How many times you go back there? It's right here. Anyway, hashtag why I'm single. I know where all my stuff is. I know where all my stuff is.
I know where none of my stuff is. Every day I start my day with going, Dan, where's my phone? Dan, where are my keys? And he'll go, he watches around the house all the time because he sees me put it down in weird places. And he'll go, right here.
No, I gotta stop that. I'm gonna be nice. Kia has got us involved with Railroad Square. We're gonna sponsor the first Friday. Which one? August? The first Friday in August?
August through the rest of the year.
I tell you what, I had the worst FOMO in June because I didn't know it was going on. And then I saw all these posts. Oh, I'm at First Fridays. It's the largest record turnout ever. I'm like, I'm not there. And I was all mad. So the first thing I did on Mondays, I'm like, I need to have that in my life. And so we're doing that. We're we're going to be out there in full force. I mean, probably our firm could populate the entire park for that event.
Probably.
We got a lot of craft beer lovers.
Bring it on. We love the craft beer lovers. So, but thank you so much for sponsoring the event. I'm on the board of Acers, and so I really do appreciate the fact that your company is actually our first large sponsor.
Oh, good.
Yay! What is Acers?
Acers is I'm going to draw a blank for a second. Okay, Arts and Cultural Experiences in Railroad Square. So it's a nonprofit that it's been around for a while, but it was under different names. And so we brought it back in as the Art Garden opened and as COVID kind of the restrictions were being released. And that is another way that we're also helping mitigate the risk, is we do a lot of community actions, and the Art Garden can be utilized for nonprofit events and whatnot. So it's all kind of tied together, and that's how we have really helped ourselves, because we did at the very beginning, we did a lot of big events and nonprofit work, and just people just using our space and getting people to come down to Railroad Square again. So those may not have been the most profitable nights, but having the people's eyes on the place again is really what helped boost Railroad Square in general, but definitely the Craft House.
Yeah.
Let me just say that Railroad Square has some incredibly impressive, like, nationally recognized artists. I mean, it's not just like local people, it's like national, like highly regarded artists. And I love the fact that, I travel a lot, Dana travels a lot, and I love the fact that you can go to Portland and find like an area like this in Portland, or go to Seattle or Denver or whatever, and
Austin.
You look around, Austin, right? And you look around and you're like, man, I wish we had something like this in Tallahassee. We do. It's here. It's at Railroad Square, and it's so cool. I'm glad that you guys are. Yeah, it's been here. Like I said, it's been here since 1996 when I had my first date there. So
I did not know that. It's
been actually the art district since the 80s.
I didn't know.
Wow.
It's been around for a while. Adam and Lily's mother turned it into the art district in the 80s.
How wonderful.
But at first it was more of just artist studios, and it wasn't the gallery hop. I think when you're talking about is right when they started the gallery hopping the first Fridays. And now Adam and Lily have moved towards having more retail in there. So as well as the artists and studios. So it's a good blend of it. And their like motto is like, they don't want the starving artist mantra anymore. They want to have thriving artists down here.
Yeah, you don't have to suffer for your art.
Yes, exactly.
So enjoy it, celebrate it, and encourage other people to celebrate it. Yeah.
And I love that you guys are making it so family friendly, because for me, it's really important for my kids to have that like artistic and the cultural experience. And I love the fact that your restaurant, your facility is all very family friendly. It's not like, oh, it's an adult only place. I think that's really neat.
We absolutely do. We welcome all people to come down. We're a very inclusive environment. I don't think there could be an arts district that isn't inclusive. That would seem a little counterintuitive to me, but we want people to feel very comfortable, and having people from all walks of life all hanging out in the art garden and enjoying food and drinks and laughs, and seeing kids run around, and then college students playing cornhole maybe, or whatever's going on. We just want everyone to feel very comfortable here.
I think they do. Let me ask you something. What's it like to be an owner versus an employee for you?
That is a wonderful question. It's and I've managed restaurants before as well. So you think it's like, oh, it's not going to be that much different. No,
it's a world of difference.
It's a whirlwind. Like, you have a lot to risk. There's a lot, especially when you serve alcohol. There's huge risks as soon as you have anyone in here drinking a single drop. And it's that right there, you have to constantly, we do every, I think 90 days or 120 days, we do an alcohol compliance training that I have to make sure we stay on top of. And that's, if something happens, we can go and say, hey, we do everything. These people get this link that they have to go to and study before they start as a server or a bartender. And then they have to go to these meetings once every quarter, basically. And we have to mitigate our damages as much as possible there to make sure that we're being as safe and serving a safe alcohol. So, I mean, that's like one of the largest ones. Then you have running a restaurant, as a lot of people don't understand the service industry in general, if you've never worked in it, is you are putting your face out there to people, then you're having to work with all your employees and keep everyone happy. And so you're constantly spinning all these plates at once. And then you're looking at your labor, your cost of goods, your, bottom line, and making sure you're hitting all of it, and, balancing all of it all together. And it is very stressful, and it's different. Most people, if they manage, a lot of times they clock out whenever they're done and they get to go home and think about nothing else. And no, it's constantly, especially during COVID, constantly, how do we survive? How do we move forward? How do we keep going? And we're not shy to say that we've struggled. There's been multiple struggles with our business. And so we have said we've almost failed multiple times. We've been on the brink, and it's not just COVID. There's, some other issues that we've gone through as well. And so, we have had stressors upon stressors. And I'm like, I had a manager a long time ago when I told her I wanted to own something. She goes, work with me side by side. I'll talk you out of wanting to own something. And I texted her one time, I was like, Cindy, you are right. You should have talked me out of it. But no, I love it at the same time. So it's stressful and amazing. And I don't know how to fully describe it, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I love what I do with every ounce of my being, because I get to help bring some good into the community and meet a lot of people, a lot of wonderful people in the process.
That's cool.
That's fantastic. I'll share a story. Whenever I first came to this law firm, one of the founding partners, Silas Eubanks, described it. He said, and we were a small firm then, and he said, there's a lot of little mouths to feed. And I thought to myself, it almost felt almost arrogant, really. I didn't know him that well then. He's not that way. He's a lovely person. But I understand now what he meant by that. Because when I look around here, I don't think about my bills or whatever. I think about we've got 50 employees. That's 50 rent or mortgage payments that have got to be made. That's probably 100 car payments, and I think about that, and that's an enormous responsibility. And sometimes you go, boy, it really would be good just to get the same paycheck, on a regular basis and have somebody else worry about that. The rewards are overwhelmingly good, but a lot of times it looks easy and it looks like it's just, an automatic machine. But when you're an owner, and there's something, there's no money, you come out of pocket. You're the last person to get a paycheck if things aren't rolling. You better be prepared for that. And you've got to also always look like you got it together, because nobody wants to be led by a fool.
Yeah.
So there's an enormous amount of pressure, I think, to be an owner, but it's also the motivator. Once you have that kind of responsibility, you have that mindset, well, this is not going to fail. The one thing I do know is this is not going to fail, because that's an option that's off the table. So I remember what he said, and I absolutely understand now, why he said that. It's a lot of responsibility. I want to talk about your quality of life, because this is a show about empowerment and particularly geared toward women. And I don't know a woman who's not worrying about work-life balance. It's just it's a perennial problem. How is your work life? Because you are in an industry that, in my mind, you probably start rolling about 10 a.m. and you start ending the day about 1 a.m. So, and I've also heard this. I've always heard, if you own a restaurant or a bar and you're not there all the time, people will rob you blind. I hate to say that, but that's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true. So give me some thoughts on, how do you own a bar and restaurant, be a woman, and have a quality of life? Right.
It is definitely a challenge, and I am not shy to say that it has not brought me to my knees in tears. I'm very, very transparent with that. I have struggled greatly, obviously with COVID as well. There were times, like you said, you had 50 mouths to feed, and there were times we didn't take paychecks for it. So, not only is my work-life balance struggling, as I'm putting in way more hours than I ever signed on for. But when you also sign on for ownership, it's almost an unlimited amount of hours you're signing up for, whenever it's needed. But it's definitely been a struggle. I have a son who's turning 9 on Sunday, and he, I have him week on, week off. And so that makes it a little easier. I kind of invest a little bit more time on the weeks that I'm not with him. But as far as balancing it, I do struggle with it still. It was amazing that I took off 4 days 2 weeks ago to go to DC with my son. And I was like, I have to make this happen. He deserves this. He's wanted this trip for 3 years, and like I could not make it happen. And so he, you know, is definitely a motivating factor for me to constantly be better and do better.
Yeah, I feel that because, you know, I don't care what you've got going on, it's temporary. But being there for your kids, being accessible to your kids, that affects them, you, the whole rest of the world for many, many, many years into the future. So sometimes in the immediate moment, we forget how important it is to continue making them a priority. And you realize that if stuff goes south while you're not there, you can fix it. You fixed a lot of other things that you didn't even see coming. So, you know, you got this. But I know Kimmy and Carrie and Kia, y'all all have youngins in the house.
Yeah.
Mine is grown. But I still worry about her. I still constantly think about her. I need to be there for her. I need to stop this and make this a priority. What are y'all thinking when she talks about that, you know, as women business owners yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, being in a restaurant, I have the same view as you do, Dana, that you're working around the clock. There's always something that you can be doing. There's always work that we can be doing too, but at least the court's only open from 8 to 5. So at least I'm not going to get a judicial order outside of those 40 hours, but
we hope.
Yeah, we hope.
Or a phone call.
I know. I just think it's awesome what you're doing. I have so many questions.
Yeah, go ahead, take it.
All right. First, I want to talk about food price inflation. It's going crazy, right? I know you mentioned the wings, but give us a little bit more insight into what you're seeing.
Like you're day in, day out running your operations right now. Things people don't even think about.
Yeah. So it's all over the place. It's gotten a little bit better in some areas. We opened up very early back from COVID in comparison to most other states. So we got a little bit more time in, and people start feeling more comfortable with everything going on. And then at the beginning of the year, the cold snaps and the freezes that we didn't expect, the huge one in Texas that knocked like the power out in Austin for like a week or two, that actually hurt a lot of the supply chains, and people don't realize that we're still kind of coming back from that. And as we're coming back from that issue right there, we also are watching other states finally reopen for the first time. And people are like, how are you even out of this? I'm like, I've ordered it on every truck for 3-4 trucks now, and I haven't gotten it on there. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm doing my part. My vendors are doing their part trying to get the products, but it's not happening. And with that, we've seen significant increases in a lot of the meats. Obviously wings being the worst, but it's been across the board. A lot of prices have gone up. I won't say everything's doubled like the wings, but things have gone significantly higher. And, you know, we're doing our best trying to not raise the prices, but
I was going to ask you if you've done that. Or if you put any kind of a warning. You know, a lot of people, you go to the restaurants, it says, please be patient with us. We've got a staff. And I always try to. That's just a reminder to be extra kind. Are you doing anything like that?
We have not increased the prices yet, unfortunately, because the prices do not seem to be dipping back down at all. We are going to have to increase the prices on certain things. But I don't feel like we're astronomically priced to begin with. So I think we're very fair, and going up on a few of our lower priced items won't hurt so bad for people. Right now, we're still not bringing wings in because I'd have to put them at market price. And I'm like, I can't put those wings and market price together. But at the same time,
it's not lobster.
Yeah, exactly. And I've worked in wing restaurants like my whole life, basically. So I remember when they were like the cheapest menu item there was. And
they're kind of like trash stuff somebody made interesting.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And so putting a market price on it seems so crazy. But and then I was like, I don't want to also give people a sticker shock at the end of, you know, $16, $17 for 10 wings. So we're having to sit down, and I'm going to sit with my food vendor here soon, and we're going to look at what we can bring in that's going to be a higher profit item, and what we could change or remove from the menu that is the cost is just not going to come back down. So we're looking at, you know, all those kind of options in there.
Yeah, you got to do something. And I think a lot of people, if you can afford to eat out at all, I think you realize your service might not be as fast. You may have to pay a little bit more. I think those people already have some flex in their budget because they're eating out in the first place. So I don't think you should feel bad because you have to respond to market conditions you have no control over.
Well, I mean,
Go ahead.
we hope people feel that way, but unfortunately, I know that's not always the case.
You can't
I mean,
please everybody.
yeah, you're not going to please everyone for sure.
No, some people just are miserable. And that's how I learned that when I was developing this extreme rhinoceros skin that I wear. Some people just ain't gonna like it. There's nothing you can do about it. You just got to roll. Kimmy, you had a bunch of questions. What else? Because I don't want to take your time. Go ahead.
Okay, one, I've got a request, and then I'm going to ask my next question, which my request is I had the best eggplant sandwich at your restaurant, and you took it off the menu. And so my request is please.
Oh, this is a bitch session is what this is.
Yes.
He just dropped a complaint in the complaint box. Bring the eggplant back, baby.
She's got a sign.
That was actually a topic of conversation not too long ago. Someone else brought it up. They said they really loved it, but for a short while, it wasn't becoming a consistent product for us. And so I took it off the menu, and I always did mean to revamp it or bring something else out. And then things just kind of got really crazy, the staffing shortage and everything. I was literally in the kitchen versus building the business and working on the business. I was literally cooking the food. So
does that satisfy you, Kimmy? Does that satisfy you?
But I am working on a new product, a new item to bring out. And so that is one of the things I do in this area. I do need to have more vegetarian and strictly vegan options on the menu as well. So it is definitely something we're working towards.
I think your menu is awesome because I eat mostly vegetarian, pescatarian sometimes. I thought your menu was really good for
I like it.
It's hard to do eggplant. Y'all did it so well. But anyways.
I appreciate that. I felt like it was an inconsistent product. So I will look back into that for you.
Okay, here's my question. I want to know more about the craft beer process.
Yeah.
All right. That's very broad.
Open-ended. I know. I don't really know anything about how you decide what to make or what to buy or what to provide, any of that.
And how much do you make at a time? What do you make there versus have other craft brewers and you sell it? What's the whole shebang?
So we do not brew in-house here. So everything we get is through distributors from other breweries. And we, I don't have some really great strategy to this. And that sounds funny because I'm always like, yeah, we have our SOPs. There's going to be all these things you have to choose from. I literally look at the list that come out and I'm like, what catches my eye? And then I look to see what we have and kind of base it off there. And so I don't get too many sours all at once on the menu. Yeah. And I try to keep a little something for everyone out there. But in all honesty, I kind of pick them based off their names sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's how people maybe purchase beer sometimes if they're casual beer drinkers. Like, that looks fun.
Yeah, like one of our top selling beers, the quickest we've ever sold out of beers, unicorn farts lasted 2 hours. And strawberry
they always do. They go fast.
Yeah, strawberry cheesecake in your face lasted 24 hours. So we kicked those kegs very, very quickly. And it was the names that drew people's attention. And that's how a lot of people like to kind of pick them because because we're not really snobby about being here. We'll talk to you. We have our Untapped list, which is they'll give you descriptions on all the beers. That we get a lot of beginner and intermediate craft beer drinkers here. And then we got a lot of other people like, oh, you always have fun and exciting things. So they come down here, which is great because as someone, I remember what it was like when I first walked into a brewery over in Jacksonville when I lived over there, walked into Bold City and I was so nervous. I was like, I don't even know what to look for. I don't know what I like. And they're like, oh, here's a flight of beer to try here. Here's a sample. And they like just open the floodgates of me absolutely loving craft beer.
Cool.
I want to give oh, sorry, you go ahead, Carrie.
I have a really good friend and she works down in Tampa and she grew up in the wine industry. That's been her career her whole life is, working for a big wine company. And she took a break to have kids and raise her daughters. And now she's being recruited by the craft beer industry and they want her in sales, but she, and I hope I'm not like speaking out of turn here, but she's actually learning the craft beer brewing process behind the scenes because she's so interested in the way that it works. And I think that will ultimately help her in sales, but she really might never go back to sales again because she's so fascinated by the brewing process. And I think it's really interesting. I think more women are getting into craft beer because of that, because of their interest in that, and not necessarily just being the beautiful woman that's out front doing the sales portion of it.
It's
So
a
I think that's
craft.
kind
Of course we're going to do it. We love crafts.
So back in the day, women were not really allowed to be testers of beers because our taste buds changed throughout our cycle. But now people have actually taken that into consideration, going, how does this taste at different points in time? So they've actually been able
Listen,
to
a woman needs a different
well-rounded
beer at different times of the month. Somebody needs to meet that need, and they're sitting on a license to print money.
Yeah.
Get the woman the right beer at the right time of the month, create peace in the that is gold, my friend. I could market that in my sleep.
I did not know that our taste buds change, but I did know that
You've never eaten an entire box of donuts for no reason.
I've noticed
I
that
don't believe
sometimes
you.
I like a wine and sometimes I don't. It's the same
Right.
wine, but I've never thought about that it was me.
No.
So Justine, I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Kimmy, did I interrupt you again? I got you
We
again.
have that
Sorry.
lag. Yeah.
I want to talk about this one drink that they have, and then I'll give it back to you, which is the buzzed button, which it's some type of what is it, a Szechuan button? I was just looking up what it was called, but it's some sort of plant. Is that right, Justine? It's a plant, and then you drink this. It's like a margarita, but then your tongue goes numb, and it makes as it denumbs, I think, you taste the drink differently.
Yes.
And it's the coolest experience. So I just wanted to mention that.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's so many things I don't know. I'm learning this.
Yeah, me too. It's very interesting.
What'd you say, Kia?
Kimmy is amazing with all this information.
Kimmy will hit you with some very interesting facts, experiences. Yeah, Kimmy's a very, very multi-layered onion. You just keep get a new Kimmy. Just a new Kimmy.
All right, now I'll let Carrie ask her question.
So Justine, my question is coming from, so when I was in college, I attended bar, and it is a very, very, slinging drinks. You sexually harass people and you get sexually harassed, and you got to have thick skin, and it's fun. And, like clients come in and they say racy things to you and you say racy things back to the customers, and it's so much fun. So my question for you really is like, how do you handle that? Like, do you just kind of go with it, or do you put people in their place? Do you have that from employees? You're a woman in a very, very, very male-dominated industry where people are drinking and having fun and flirting. So
sexy charge. I worry as an owner, as an employer.
Yeah.
What do you do to protect your employees when people are doing what they do?
Yeah.
Call Jake Tapper from Bar Rescue.
So I have incredibly thick skin as well. I've bartended for years, and I was actually a Hooters girl as well for a while. And so I definitely have heard my fair share of everything. But here, actually, we don't have too many problems. Knock on wood, though. I mean, I don't want anything to start happening now, but I protect my employees 100%, and I will not allow harassment or sexual harassment of any kind. When I find out about it, and if they don't tell me immediately, I get very upset. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen too terribly often. Between guests and employees, people it's a very relaxed environment that I don't know. It's just not as much of a problem here as I've had it. And honestly, I said I was a Hooters girl, but my worst experiences were probably when I was tending bar and at another totally separate place versus, being here or as
being a server or
yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That is really refreshing. I always think very highly of this community, and I like to believe in the best in it. And I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, me too. I have no problems of telling someone that they're wrong and they need to stand down or they can leave.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. Let me
That's
hear
awesome.
Let me hear from Key. You've probably been thinking and got some questions or things you want to share. No? Or is your mic off? Your mic's off again.
It keeps doing it on its own. I'm not
Okay.
even touching anything.
Oh, it's our
So-
producer. We're gonna write her up.
Exactly, Whitney, I'm coming. You know, with the new legislation in regards to being able to take alcohol home, was beer included in that as well? And has that benefited, you know, your company in general?
Oh, what a great question.
Amazing question. Because that
Didn't
actually
didn't they make that permanent?
Yes, starting today, actually. Today is the first day of it. So when we were to go only during COVID, it absolutely helped our business.
I think
we are a destination. So most people don't think of us as to go. And so back then we were struggling to get people down here and we needed the sales to stay viable. And you know, so it absolutely helped us back then. And when the announcement was made, I immediately just emailed the property manager and the property owners. And I'm like, what are your opinions on this? Because unfortunately, Railroad Square, they've always kind of had a problem, especially on First Fridays, of people thinking that it is an open container. And this law is not an open container law. This is a to go and take it home with you. And you're supposed to purchase a certain amount of food. It's supposed to be like 60% food and only 40% alcohol or something like that. And when we kind of looked at it pragmatically, we just said it's not worth it to us because we don't sell that much to-go food. And so we're really not going to take part in this because we feel like it'll actually increase our risk and liability of having people drinking on the property in general. And we like to think of the entire community, not just ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, I see that. I see it as kind of a stopgap. You had to kind of do it, but you have to understand too, I didn't have a problem with it during COVID because I also knew consequently there are fewer cars on the road.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me as much because remember, we didn't have these laws when there are fewer of us. And as there are more of us and we're, you know, running around these dangerous instrumentalities, we have to change, you know, the laws and the rules and our behavior to accommodate those extra people. So I didn't have a philosophical problem with it during COVID. But now I'm like, you know, I'm wondering if they put it in those Kia, do they put them in those things? Like if you get like if you have a bottle of wine, you take it home, they put it in that sealed thing so you can't get to it. But during COVID, when they would bring you a cocktail, it was in like a egg drop soup container.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure our business is going to be impacted by that. That's just
I think if people are going to drink and drive, they're going to do it no matter if they do it from home and they take a traveler with them or if they get it from, you know, from a place. So
that's an compelling argument, except for this is the difference. Now there's going to be another person to look to for you know, compensation. Whereas usually if you're just driving from your house or whatever, you know, whatever. But a vehicle or a dram shop type thing where somebody served a known drunk, you know.
Yeah, you're right. It opens up, you know, Justine's restaurant and other restaurants to more liability probably.
Right.
Yeah, I think you do have to just weigh it. You know, what do I get for it versus what's the potential harm in that? And you just, again, it's a business decision. We have to do that every day ourselves. You know, there's a lot of things we could do, but, oh, it looks risky or it looks, you know, questionable. And I'm just not going to go there. You know, there's plenty of legal, ethical ways to make a living. And we're committed to doing that, as I know that you are. How many employees do you have?
We are about 43 right now.
Gosh, that's a lot of personnel.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I tell Kia. You haven't been here long enough to know. Carrie and Kimmy will tell you every time there's a problem and the solution is hiring somebody, I basically go into a panic attack. I'm like, that's one more personality. Are you sure there's not a bot? Are you sure that this is not an automated function? Because it is. I mean, people have to get along and you have to play to people's strengths, their weaknesses. You have to compensate for it. You have to, you know, be considered. I mean, 43 people, that's a lot of humans.
Yes. And what part of the interview process that I go through is I'm sitting there and I'm evaluating, will they fit our vibe? And, you know, and obviously like they have to hit the other parts too, but I'm looking at their personality along with it because you do have to mesh it together because if you are not working as a team, you will fall apart so quickly.
So
yep. Same with our office for sure.
we've learned that it's not, you used to measure productivity and skills and that sort of thing, and you used to give greater value and weight to those. But I think once we've all figured out how important culture is, your firm culture, and how one person with the wrong attitude or, just a personality that doesn't fit with the vibe of the office can really almost bring you to your knees, to a halt, or just slow your roll so much because you're just dealing with ruffled feathers all the time. And we've learned that, through experience, that is as important as anything is the right person, the right fit for the environment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have
Being the right
another
fit is
question.
more important.
Yeah, Carrie.
So this is, I don't know really how to articulate this, but I think that, and this is kind of going to when you said that you were a former Hooters girl, right? So this is a women's empowerment show, and we're a women's empowerment group. And, I think a lot of women that are in industries where they're judged based on their looks get judged negatively by women, people that do pageants or actresses or models or Hooters girls or whatever, women that primarily are in a job, where they're using their looks, right, to their advantage. So I don't feel like it should ever be like that. I feel like women should be supported no matter what they're doing, based if they're happy, if they're comfortable, and it's their prerogative, right? It's sort of like whether or not mom should stay at home or go to work, or whether or not women should breastfeed or bottle feed, whatever. It's a woman's prerogative. So like, did you face a lot of that kind of judgment when you were working at Hooters? And if you faced that kind of judgment, like, how did you handle it?
Great.
That's a wonderful question. I actually always say that, there's some people that are empowered by modesty, and some people are empowered by nudity. And I think there's great parts to both of those. And I fully support people who feel on both sides of that. When I started as a Hooters girl, I was a little bit more timid about telling people I was a Hooters girl, because I knew there's a lot of stigma with it. And I didn't necessarily want to do that because I would defend. And it's not like I'm afraid of confrontation. I just didn't want to be in a confrontation with people. And I know that I would definitely start getting on the defensive like that. But in reality, I found I became more empowered by being a Hooters girl. I felt I was never in a sorority in college, so it was my sorority. And we always say we like bleed orange, or it's orange pride and whatnot. And I absolutely love and value all my time and years with Hooters as a company, because it really helped me grow as a person. And I had great female mentors as well, which really, showed me a different side of business, and that women could become managers in a male-dominated industry. Women could become owners in a male-dominated industry. So it really actually helped lift me up in so many ways. And I think that people should not take into consideration the looks, the position, that they're doing, the modeling, whatever it is that they're doing. You should just support women that are happy doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Totally agree. I love that. And I love that you said that working in that industry actually empowered you. I've never looked at it that way. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I bet you learned a lot about how the world works in that job. And
yes.
That means male behavior, because men still control, most things, and run most companies, make most important decisions all over the world. And I'm working on it, but it's taken a minute to change that. We're all working on it, but I bet you learn a lot. And I have this mantra. Everybody who knows me hears me say that I don't ever give shit to a woman about how she makes her money. It's too hard out there. There's too much responsibility on women to raise children and make it work in this world. Women don't opt out of parenting very often. Okay. And however you got to get your money, however you get food on the table, I'm not here to judge that at all. I'm going to work hard to make sure you're not exploited and subjugated doing it. But no, I don't. No, it's none of your business, first of all. And if you don't understand it, understand that you don't understand it, and keep your thoughts and your opinions to yourself, unless somebody asks you for it. But no, I can't stand it when I have to see women get on other women about their choices. That's exactly how
it surprises me how often it happens.
Yeah. No, I'm not here for that at all.
No.
Kimmy, what are some more of your thoughts? Or Carrie, I don't want to hog all the time. We've got probably about 5 minutes left, so I want to go around and hear from all of y'all anyway.
Well, I guess my final question for you would be, how many hours do you think you work in a week? I just wanted to get kind of a ballpark for you. I know we talked about balancing life, but I'm imagining it's all the time.
It's a lot. Because while I'm primarily at the craft house right now, I still have my other business. I'm not doing as much and I'm not as active currently with it, but I'm still balancing both.
What's your other business?
A marketing company.
Oh, cool. Okay. Very cool. You are a hustler. I love that.
Oh, wow. I feel lazy.
So it's definitely probably, 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Hard worker. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, Carrie, you have something?
I was just like, Jesus, 80 hours a week. I mean, I think we as lawyers are familiar with that. I'm sure there are some other professions that work that much too, but I know what a grind that is, especially when you're raising kids. So like, I know we talked about life-work balance a little bit earlier, but like, what's your secret? I mean, are you like just highly scheduled, or are you like a crazy runner and you run 20 miles a day? Like, what's your secret?
I don't think it's really much of a secret. Is I do put more hours in on the weeks I don't have my son. And I'm starting to get a better work-life balance, but my days just start very early and they kind of keep going until very late. And so my sleep is, not as much as it should be. So I can't say I'm in the best health position at this point in time. But I'm working on that as well because I want to become all around better and well-rounded.
Can I say something here before I get to Kia? Because I want to give you your shot as we wrap, but I'm going to give a shout out to divorce and hear me out. I was divorced from my daughter's father for most of her childhood. And I was able to complete 3 degrees, go to law school, all that kind of stuff. And you think, well, how'd you do that working full time? I think, but honestly, the fact that I didn't have 100% responsibility for my child, and that she did have the time that she had with him, I could schedule around that. It was a huge, huge help. I don't think I could have done what I did during that part of her life if I didn't have that. And a lot of people, and I'm not suggesting everybody get divorced.
I don't wish it on anybody.
I'm not, but I'm just saying there's a lot of women I meet, and when they get divorced, they think their life is over. They think they're damaged goods. They think they're, nobody's going to want me. I'm just going to, take up a half. That is honestly, I wish people would look at it more the way you and I have, which is that's some opportunity for me to really put in the extra sweat equity to grow something that really matters to me. So it's just another one of those things. Jimmy Facey talks about it all the time. It's just another one of those setbacks that's really an opportunity in disguise.
Launching you forward.
So I shout out to the dads who were there after the marriage dissolves. Shout out to the moms and dads who can make that work. So yeah. Kia, what are you thinking as we wrap up today?
I think my biggest things, it's one of the trigger words, pivot and shifts and being agile. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let me turn you up a little bit more. Can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Okay. So
I'll repeat her question. I can hear her, so I'll repeat it to you.
Okay. We've had all the pivots and the shifts and, being agile. So what advice would you give another woman business owner in regards to best positioning their company right now in this state? Because we're not going back to any type of normalcy, what that is. We're moving into new stages. So what would you give them as far as advice of that?
Yeah, I think what she's saying is, you've learned a lot because you had to go through COVID, and we're never going back to pre-COVID. We're going to have some hybrid of it. So what advice would you give to somebody who's wanting to do what you've done? And that was something I wanted to finish with is, mentoring. How are you helping inspire the people? But that's a great question. What would you say to somebody who
Don't
needs
stop marketing.
Stop marketing?
Do not stop your marketing. That is one thing that a lot of people pulled back on is they were like, oh, I need to save money. And they stopped marketing themselves, and you needed to push it forward at that point in time. So anytime you're growing your business, I know for some people they feel like it's counterintuitive. Like, I don't have the money to spend, but you're not going to get the money to spend if you don't spend it. So it takes money to make money, and marketing your business and knowing where your target market is, and really understanding your demographics and understanding their motivating factors for buying. When you figure out those things and like who your people are, then you start going out to them and you create different marketing funnels and marketing streams, and don't just be in one, like, oh, well, I have a ad in a newspaper, or I did an Instagram post, and well, no, that that's not where your people are at. Know where they're at, keep marketing, keep pushing forward. And then also what's helped us is just being a part of this community, networking, being out, being social. As I am not the most, honestly, I never wanted to be the face of this business. That is just hands down. I did not want to, but there was a choice, and there wasn't a choice. There was, we have to succeed, and people want to understand this brand, and seeing people behind the brands is what helped us, and people wanted that connection. And once I started reaching out and creating those connections, our business started taking off. So you may not be great at networking, but get out there and practice. And I want to say, I believe it was, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name, Samantha Vance, I believe.
Yeah, love her.
She had this thing where she will sit in the corner of the room at a networking event, and she'll eat a little cracker or two, and then she's eyeballing who she's going to go to, because she only wants to put out so much energy at these events. And she's very picky about who she goes to, and so she's watching and using a very watchful eye. When she told me all that, I was like, that's what I need to do and hone in on. It's kind of what I already did. But the way she described it, and I'm doing it no justice, by the way, I was like, that's what I need. And so that's why I started utilizing a lot more. I was like, I wasn't just handing my business card out to every single person and trying to have this little mini conversation. I was finding some good connections and talking to these people and creating value, and trying to see where I could help value them versus me just taking the value.
Right.
Yeah, you've got to be intentional with it, because a lot of people think marketing and networking, it's just splattering to everybody. But you need to, if you want fish, you go to where the fish are. Don't just cast the net in the world.
You got to be very intentional.
You need to be very intentional, or you'll waste your time and your money. It'll be a huge time suck and a huge money suck, just going to lunch with a bunch of people all the time that are really not going to create your business. So Samantha's so gifted in that. She's been on the show, and she's just a wonderful person. I can't say enough good about her. I would also say this: no one has ever saved their way to prosperity. So you've got to be able to invest in yourself and your dreams, your business, and you've got to not let fear rule the day. So thank you for being with us, Justine Spells, owner or one of the owners of the Railroad Square Craft House. And she's very active in her community. She's got a marketing firm. She's all about Railroad Square. Come down there. First Fridays is a big hit, but come down there anytime and have some of our delicious food. I had brunch there recently. It was fantastic. Truffle fries, yes. So anyway, come on down. Thank you for joining us again this week for another episode of the EmPower Hour. We hope to see you next week, but we are going to rerun a show because vacations happen, and we are practicing self-love next week. So we'll see y'all week after next. Bye-bye.